Now, up till now, we have seen what are different qualitative data collection techniques. Qualitative data collection. Once the data has been collected, the next step is to analyze the data. So, in quantitative analysis, the researcher intends to test a hypothesis, whereas qualitative analysis aims to develop a hypothesis based on the available data. So that is a fundamental difference one must understand. Quantitative analysis aims to test a given hypothesis, whereas qualitative analysis aims to develop a hypothesis. And sometimes a theory, as I told you, like in grounded theory. So, in qualitative analysis, we systematically organize, interpret, and make some sense of non-numerical data. That is what we do in qualitative analysis. So, if you have transcripts of interviews, you have audios of interviews, you have transcripts from focus groups, from case studies, from newspaper articles. So try to identify patterns, themes, and then deeper meanings in qualitative data. We will look at this, how this is done in subsequent slides. And qualitative data, as I have already told you, used in social sciences, psychology, healthcare, business, education, and technology research also. Now, these are different qualitative analysis methods. Content analysis. So, the content analysis basically identified patterns in text-based data. The data could be originally in text form, or it could have been converted from an audio into text form. So, after that has been done, the analysis of the content is carried out. And in content analysis, the basic aim is to find the frequency of, say, words which are occurring. So we can find the frequency of different words in the text. And from that, we try to get some picture of the data. For example, if there is a review of a hospital, of a restaurant, for example, so by reading the reviews, the researcher can find out whether there are some words that are occurring more often than other words. So sometimes the word like fresh ingredients used by the restaurant, it could be there in all the reviews. Or customer service by the waiting staff. So waiting staff may be quite cordial. So by looking at the reviews, you can look for certain words which are there, which are occurring a large number of times. You can get the frequency of those words and then try to make some sense of the data and arrive at some conclusion. Narrative analysis. Basically, narrative analysis is when people describe their experiences, narrate their experiences, narrate their stories. For example, one can go and interview people like who have interviewed, for example, soldiers who have returned from war. So they can narrate their stories of war. So narrative analysis basically tries to analyze the stories that are told by the respondents. So narrative, or the stories that are narrated, That is why it is called narrative analysis. Discourse analysis. In discourse analysis, discourse is a fancy word to describe the language used in some communication and social interactions. Basically, discourse. Like you must have come across this word, political discourse. Okay, so political discourse means the language used by politician in a particular, say, in a particular manner. For example, if there are two politicians, politician A and politician B, and then they are talking about, say, climate change. So, politician A might say that climate change is a threat to our society. Then his tone is of threat, basically. Politician B, he could say that climate change is an issue that has economic implications for our country. So in that case, his language is not of threat, but rather he wants to emphasize the economics behind climate change. So in discourse analysis, we try to study the language used by the participants or our target or the subjects. Subjects in this case could be politicians. Subject in this case could be academicians. Subject in this case could be religious people. Thematic analysis. So thematic analysis identify themes across qualitatively. So this is one method which is most commonly used and which is which has greater practical significance than all the other methods. So here the labels are first created. Labels, I'll come to labels, coding or labels in a moment. And then themes are, the labels or the codes are grouped according to themes. I'll take up one example in detail of thematic analysis in my presentation. Okay. Grounded theory. Grounded theory is you try to develop some new theories based upon your qualitative data. So you come up with some theory. That is what we mean by grounded theory. Interpretative phenomenological analysis. So here the personal lived experiences are so for example, narrative analysis is that how do people tell their stories. That is what we try to understand in narrative analysis. Whereas in IPA, we try to find out what does this experience mean to them. What does that experience mean to them? So there is a subtle difference between narrative. Narrative also is like people telling their experiences, stories. In interpretive phenomenological analysis, again the personal lived experiences are told, but people try to make some sense of their experience. Okay. So in narrative analysis, one may ask, how do people tell their stories? But in IPA, it basically asks, what does the experience mean to them? What does the experience mean to them? Now first we will come, so these are different methods: content analysis, narrative, discourse, thematic, grounded theory, IPA. So we will come to these one by one. Let us first look at content analysis. So content analysis systematically categorizes text, images, or media to identify patterns, themes, or meanings. Okay. So in content analysis, the text is taken and then it is categorized by assigning some codes or labels. I'll tell you in a moment what the code is. So content analysis can be used for analyzing media, interviews, open-ended survey responses, policy documents, newspaper clippings. Anything can be analyzed using this method, which is called content analysis. Anything that is text-based or which has been converted into text form from any other form. So example is examining news article to identify how climate change is portrayed, how climate change is perceived by people. Okay. So there could be some codes or labels like threat, then natural. Words like this will be assigned to different text, and then we will try to find out what is the frequency of these words appearing in these articles or in this text. Based on the frequency of those codes or labels, the researcher tries to make some sense of the data. So as you can see from our discussion up till now, that qualitative research is subjective in nature. It's not very objective. Like, it all depends upon what kind of sense you make. Okay, what are the keywords that you are assigning to your text data, and then only the researcher comes up with some summary or some conclusion in the end, which may suffer from biases, which may arise from the settings in which he is operating, or from his own personal experiences. So the qualitative data analysis is by nature very subjective in it. Very subjective. Okay. Process of content analysis. So the process is data collection. Text, images, videos, interview transcripts. All these are data collection. Data that is required for content analysis. Coding. Coding is the process of assigning categories to words or phrases. And then see here, I think I have, coding is simply sticking labels on relevant pieces of data. So if you have a paragraph, you can attach one code to that paragraph. Then there is another paragraph or some sentences, you can attach another code to that. Like, for example, I'll go to this and then we'll come back. Like, see here, this is one text. When I was in the office, so this is a transcript of an interview.